Hey class, this is Nick. I got a tutorial for you today. It's going to talk about how to create a collage drawing using a photograph and Adobe Illustrator. This is kind of a non-standard technique. A lot of times you'll be doing this. You would have a rendering taken from a three-dimensional modeler like Rhino. And you'd actually use the geometry from the model to create this, but we're actually going to try this with a photograph. And what I've got is this photograph that I took of the King Pavilion, and this is just like a regular kind of space, but it has some elements that are really spatial, like this kind of, it has kind of a focal distance. It has this idea of this plane that's kind of floating in front of the sky or the background, which is exactly the idea of the King Pavilion, that the corners are kind of broken and that the roof kind of floats. And that's exactly the idea that I want to try to communicate with this rendering. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this photo. And I've got Adobe Illustrator, open here. I'm going to go ahead and say open. And open up this image. And basically, once you've got that, you'll see the document is basically set up. This case is 11 by 7. Sorry, it's an 8.5 by 11. That's fine. It's a pretty high resolution image. So I'm going to go ahead and take that image, and I'm going to go ahead and take my layers, and I'm going to just select the image and fade it. It's a bit of transparency here. Oh, my artboard's not right. Okay, so that's actually I'm going to take my artboard and modify it for now. So this is the image that I have. I don't really care about the size of the artboard at the moment. I'm just going to go ahead and size it to my image. Just go ahead and snap that. Oops, sorry. If my snaps aren't really working, you just go ahead and turn on Smart Guides. But that's my image. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on there, and I'm just going to call this image. Go ahead and lock that. And then here I am going to add my lines. And the idea of this technique is to try to isolate the main kind of planes and the lines that I have in the image. It's not like I'm essentially going to borrow it as a reference. I'm not going to really use the photograph in this case. I'm going to use the space, and the lines and the planes I use are going to help me abstract it. So right away, so if I got the main tool in Illustrator you want to use to illustrate with, make sure I'm on this layer here, is the pen tool. So it says eraser, but I don't know why it said that, but it's the pen tool, okay? And the pen tool just lets you drop points in space. So I can click, and if I hold down Shift, I can restrict it to a horizontal line or a vertical line, actually, or a 45-degree line. Wow. And every time I click, I get a point. And every time, and if I close something, you can see the little kind of circle on the end of my point. If I close it, I click, it gives me a closed shape. Okay, this is your background, or sorry, your fill color, and this is your stroke color. And in this case, you can make the stroke black. And I don't know, I didn't do that, but if I press D, I get a black stroke and a white fill. I'm going to go and use that. And my line is very thin, so if I go, because it's super tiny. So 2 millimeters. Now I've got an edge, and I've got a fill, and I can do things like, if I change the fill color, right, I can get a black. So it's kind of like in Photoshop where you have a background and a foreground, but in Illustrator you have a fill and you have a stroke. But the pen tool is really the device that we use to build a lot of objects. The other tools you'd have would be just drawing a rectangle, right? Or I'll do this here, using an ellipse, for example. Okay, and again I can press D, and I can change that to white with black. But through those kinds of operations, you can build shapes pretty quickly. The idea with Illustrator, though, is it's much faster than AutoCAD. It's not like the kind of precision tool in terms of measurements and things like that. You're not really generating things by drafting. You're generating them by drawing. But you can quickly knock out some pretty realistic, pretty clean images with it. So that's kind of why I like it as a tool. it does line types and line weights really well. So in this image, I'm just going to go ahead and draw up some things. And I'm going to use a pen tool with a black stroke, but no fill. So this little thing means none, which means I'm just drawing with lines. And I'm going to eyeball this. So starting from the edge of the page, what I want to do is try to define the roof plane. And you don't have to be precise, necessarily, but I'm going to kind of draw this edge. And I can hold shift while I'm drawing to pan, and I can move, and I'm just going to grab this edge. And I'm going to go ahead and probably just grab, this for now. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just going to go ahead and I'm actually going to square this off. This is a little bit distorted in perspective, but I don't really care, so I'm going to go ahead and flatten that. And so that's my line. And I'm going to go ahead and actually, I'm going to draw these at a pretty good thickness, like a 3 weight, just so I can see what I'm doing. And then for this image, I'm going to go ahead and kind of, because I want to show the depth of the clear story as a skylight, I'm going to go ahead and if you're using snaps, it's really easy to kind of snap to an end. So I'm just going to do that, and I might go ahead and just take this and snap to the end of the path. And when you're done with the line, it's not like AutoCAD. You just want to just click the select tool, and that'll stop it. And select is V, so you can hotkey that as well. So I've got the kind of roof plane defined, and I'm just going to draw the lines for now. I'm not going to worry about too much else here. So if I wanted to draw a column, columns do tend to have like kind of a rounded edge. And so one way to do that might be to actually draw the base of it. And this isn't exactly right, but in perspective, it might be close enough. So I'm going to go ahead and do one of these Alt copies. So I'm holding Alt down to get 2 kind of arrows. And I'm going to shift drag that to the top of the column. And then what I could do is probably do a rectangle, snapping to the ends of this, and draw these. And it's an accident here. So if I select these things, and I'm holding shift down to add to the selection, I can go into what's called the Pathfinder tool. And if I say unite, it's going to add all those together and erase the pieces, and I have a whole piece. So this is just kind of like adding the outlines together. You can also do subtractions, minus front, minus back. You can also do the intersections or the exclusions. We'll kind of play these a bit later, but the idea is that you can kind of, instead of just drawing it, you can do sort of a compound object. And that can be kind of useful, like I just showed you, just to kind of create something that's a little bit more complex. Okay, so the other thing I want to do, and I can do, you can do a line segment, and I can just kind of draw a line, and that's just simple. It doesn't really have the, it's not as complex as the pen tool because it's a single line, and I can just take that. So I know that's my horizontal. I can just drag that to the end here, and now I've actually got an opportunity where I could probably begin to divide this if I wanted to, or trim it. It actually didn't work that I wanted it to. Oop, it's not what I wanted to either. Oop. Let's undo this. Let's see, I kind of want to subtract. Keep making a mess here. All right. Not what I wanted to do. Let's see here. And sometimes you got to kind of play with these. Okay, so I just did that tool, and it seemed to have broken everything. But if I go and I go back to D, and I get the lines back. Oops. Okay. I should have all those pieces. And sometimes I forget. There's like 10 different commands here, and you kind of have to experiment with what each one does with 2 sets of lines, and I tend to forget. But so I just did the outline tool, and what that does is it basically breaks everything into a series of outlines, and I can kind of ungroup those, and then it lets me kind of trim that pretty easily. And then if I want to, I can go ahead and basically, I think, add these back together again. Yeah, and that actually heals that form. Okay, so I've lost my weight, but so I made a line, and I did the outline, and then I ungrouped it. Okay, let's actually go back through that again just to make sure that we're clear on what happened here. So kind of like a trim in AutoCAD. Okay, so I've got two lines, like this line and this form, and the outline. And I said ungroup, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a weight and no fill, and I'm going to go ahead and make that weight thicker again. And then I've got, and then I've got this extra piece, and then I can go ahead and grab these two pieces and heal them again with Unite. And now I'm back to a solid, but now I've got these two lines that are where I want them. It's not straightforward. I mean, there's other commands, but I find that the tool that I think of as trim doesn't always work the way that I want it to. So, but in this case, I do have these two pieces. Okay. If you ever double click something accidentally, you'll go in isolate mode. You don't really need to worry about that right now. Just go ahead and get out of that. I'm going to go ahead and drop a couple of rectangles for my windows here. And I'm going to go ahead and I got this kind of perspective here. I'm going to go ahead and flub this. I'm going to go ahead and fake it by kind of judging where the ground probably is. And just go ahead and dropping a line here. So this is like the front of the kind of the lockers, and this is actually where the ground is. So the front of the lockers and the ground. And you know, if I'm really kind of doing this, this might even go back behind. You could do that as well. Just sort of say it goes behind. And just in the same way, this is in front of all this other stuff here. But it's good to know how to trim something to make a compound object. Okay, the other thing I want to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just put this wall in. And you can see that in the perspective of the picture, it's not perfect, but I am going to try to make this so that it seems to be a one-point perspective. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And I got to be honest, some of this is just going to be kind of figuring out the image. Like, I may not use all these lines, but I need to kind of sort it out for myself. Okay, the other thing is, if I go far enough back, I kind of feel like this column is probably just going to be a square. And I'm going to go ahead and just make it that way. The other thing I could do, though, is actually just copy this thing. Oops. Copy it, so Alt copy, and then kind of, if I grab the ends of it and hold Shift, I can transform it. So if I really wanted that rounded edge, I could probably just make a copy. That's kind of a pain in the butt. Okay. So it just doesn't want to transform exactly the way I want it to, but sometimes it happens. But that would give me the rounded edges that I think I kind of want. So sometimes if you keep snapping things, you can turn off the smart guides. And it's still a little bit big, but I don't know. Excuse me. The idea isn't to get it perfect. It's to think about the space that you're creating, right? And what I like about this image is that I've got the kind of floating roof again. I've got the kind of cut for the above piece. I've got the railings and the lockers really give me a sense of vanishing, which I like quite a bit. So I like all those details. I like all those elements. So I might even not do the lockers from behind. Now that I think about it, like, because those don't really help. They actually kind of add an element in the middle ground, but I have the columns, and I'll probably add some people to it later, so I'm going to kill those. But I am going to go ahead and establish these pieces. Let's try to draw this using some other techniques here. I'm going to do smart guides again. I'm going to kind of eyeball this corner to the edge. And if your image doesn't have the same kind of first by title cues, that's totally fine. I chose an image that has very strong ones for that reason, but it does not mean that you can't apply these techniques elsewhere. So I'm kind of like overlapping some of these a bit, because I'm gonna come in with my tools in Illustrator and trim them, kind of like the way that we've trimmed things in AutoCAD. And actually, that's my clue. So where I just dropped that line and it connected with the corner, that's actually my clue that this is probably not quite so, yeah, I'm just going to kind of eyeball this. That line needs to run between those elements there. In order for, oh actually, oh no, I made a mistake. Okay, so this is the line that's the back of this wall. So actually, I don't need to worry about. I got a little confused there. Let's go ahead and actually turn this off. I'm gonna open this line up and just kind of hide this rectangle. So it's kind of, and this line too. These are confusing my effort here. All right, let's do this again. Good reason to keep your layers organized and to keep track of what you're doing. So I'm going to draw this line between this point and what I feel like is the intersection of the drawing, and then since I know that that point is there, I can start to drag. Oops. I can just take that one point and pull it through until I get this edge. Yeah, and then that lines up just right. Excuse me. Okay, and then this one's going to be square. It's going to hold a 90° to it. Same with this one. So just take an edge. Again, not really perfect, but it's going to be good enough. And the idea of this is that we're still drawing the image. We're not trying exactly to trace it, and the image we took isn't perfect perspectively. So. All right, so I'm going to show you two methods here for kind of dividing this up and kind of cleaning it up. So the first one is just like we did before, just to simply take everything and kind of outline it, and then let's go ahead and just set the. I made a mistake here. I must have selected this column accidentally. I'm not sure I did that, but let's make sure that. There we go. So we outline. Yep, and then. D, give it no fill, and give it this. Okay, so we've got this. We can ungroup it, and everything we want to trim, we can just kind of delete. That didn't quite work. Now we'll fix it later. Okay, so that's trimmed. That's trimmed. Oops. Easy to make mistakes. Okay, that one's trimmed. That one. That one. Yeah, that whole mess right there didn't really resolve quite so well. So what we can kind of do though is kind of pick up the anchor point. This is the direct selection tool. I take that anchor and I can snap it to that end because I know that that's an end. And these kind of get me though. I'm actually kind of wondering why that didn't trim so hot, but you know what? It probably means we just need to overlap these a bit more. Just give that a shot. So just subtract it. Sorry, trim it. 3mm ungroup. Not very lucky here. Okay, get rid of that one, get rid of that one, and get rid of that one. And that's probably pretty good. You'll notice there's some craft issues here, the way these resolve themselves. Go to the lines and let's say show options. If you give them a rounded corner, you're bound to get a little bit cleaner, like resolution. So that's again just selecting the lines, get a rounded corner. In fact, I can go ahead and select everything. So like Command A or Control A, and then just give it a rounded cap. that should help a little bit. You're going to get some craft issues places like this where that overlaps. And in fact, that's actually a sign, that we had an overlapping piece. So if you look at this here, I just have this really tiny little extra crumb, and over time your eyes will get trained to see this. You can just delete it, and that's all you need. Okay, and it looks like I could probably just bring that back here. Oops. There we go. And for the last one, I can probably just drag that to there. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it, which I've actually talked about before, is if you have all the overlapping lines, you can flood fill those pieces with a live paint tool, and then the outlines you get should actually be clean. And let's actually look at that with this other piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more lines to it. Let's go with the line segment tool. It's going to meet that edge. Make this edge, and if it's not any good, we'll kind of fix it later. But okay, and I'm just gonna eyeball this. It's not perfect, but I don't really like that, so I'm just gonna make it coincide with the edge of the column. Remember, it's not about being photo accurate. It's actually just about evoking space. Okay, so like just to kind of show you that other technique that I had, I'm gonna take the leading edge of this form, and this works with multiple kind of compound objects. This isn't exactly something that has to be done. Oh, this is going to get a little confusing here, so I'm going to kind of zoom in. Boy, okay. Gotta turn my guides off here. And again, I'm going to kind of eyeball it. This is more art than science here. Lines should be getting closer together as you go down the wall, and I'm just not able to pick that up quite so well from the photograph. But if I zoom out, it's pretty good. And those diminishing lines will help me kind of read the space. And if I do that, I might as well do it on the other side. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a couple of, I lost my weight there. Put a couple of these where they need to be. And I'm not worried about weight at the moment. I'm only really worried about just getting the lines down. Hierarchy comes later. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my guides on. These I can clean up by snapping them. Oops, double click out. There we go. Snapping them to the line. And I've done a bunch of work here, so I'm going to save a copy of it before things happen. So my collage drawing. Always a good decision. Make sure that you've got a copy of that. Okay, but these, I'm just going to go ahead and say group for now, so I can hide them easily. I'm going to go ahead and hide this guy and this guy. Just so I'm only dealing with this row. And the technique I want to show you is just a way of kind of quickly establishing And actually, I think I need an edge to it too. So I'm going to go ahead and do that too. This is a technique though for quickly kind of getting clean lines. And it works by just saying like, okay, I'm going to overlap all these lines. And then I'm going to, just to make it really easy, I'm going to turn the image off. I'm going to select all these. And then I'm going to go to the Live Paint tool. And I'm going to go ahead and do some obnoxious kind of color. Oh, pink. Pink isn't obnoxious, but I'm going to say it is for now. I'm going to go ahead and fill these with pink. And I can actually hold down the button and just drag. And then I've got this. So I go ahead like I did in the video, and I can just say, okay, expand that. Actually, let me go ahead and expand Live Paint. Yeah, just to make sure. And then if I go to my layers, I've got this group. And if I ungroup it, half of it, so I've got the lines, and the other half are my shapes, which are perfect. And then if I go in, I've got all the pieces. So if I give it a 3mm, and if I ungroup that, I've actually got control over each, perfect wedge that I want to. And that's kind of a quick way to get a compound object by overlapping some of the lines. None of these techniques are like extremely efficient, but they do work. I'm just going to go ahead and I keep losing my weight on these things. But you can see, like, look at that, without the image, we have created or recreated a space, right? One thing I noticed too is that this ought to be disappearing in perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and make that wall. And as I've said, pretty frequently, actually, I'm going to go ahead and undo that because I just realized this probably wants to vanish at the edge of the column. And then I'll go ahead and I'm just going to fake this convincingly. I could find the vanishing points and that sort of thing, but I don't really need to. It's very close. Let's make sure that I get it right here. Gotta be careful with the direct selection tool. You only want to select the one point and not the whole object, because you'll accidentally move the whole thing. And that's not very helpful. Okay, same thing. Just gotta choose this one point. And I can kind of nudge it. I can kind of nudge it up and down, just fractionally with the arrow keys, until I get something approaching the right distance. Not too bad, close enough. Okay, so I got this. Let me go ahead and check my image really quickly. Yeah, not bad. And these are filled, but I can certainly, I can just select everything except for my columns. So one trick, if you want something, it's easy, is to select everything, right? And then deselect what you don't want to touch. So I'm just going to shift click my columns because I want them to be filled, and then everything else is just going to be empty. And that's a nice kind of trick. Okay, so I kind of want these cubes to be filled, so I am going to go ahead and, oops, I did that again. I'm going to go ahead and hide that. Hide this. Okay, and then these guys, I'm going to go ahead and, well, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and group all this together. So these, I'm going to, let me see. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and add kind of a border to this, just like the other side. And then we're going to go ahead and kind of shift click everything. Yep, it's all one group, and I'm going to go ahead and live paint that with a white fill. It's not going to look like anything, but trust me, it's there. All right. And then go ahead and turn these back on again. Oops. Okay, and at this point, I'm actually going to go ahead and start to color just the ground and the kind of ceiling, just to differentiate things. Like, what I like about the image that I have is this idea that there's this gap in the floor, which is mirrored by the gap in the ceiling. There's this big ceiling plane and this ground plane, but then there's this floating kind of wall, which creates a plane between the background, which is like the sky or the landscape, and the building itself. And so I want to accentuate that in the image. This is my image right now. I've got these kind of nice kind of boxes. Columns are nice and white, which I like. So I'm going to go ahead and with this image, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of color it in. So I'm going to select everything. I'm going to go to my live paint group again. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to do some simple stuff. I'm going to do like a gray tone for the ceiling. And I think I might already have and that might not want to participate in that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway. Okay, so I've got all this. Those might have already been grouped. Yeah, so this is what it wants to do. So just, if you have a bug with that, just try it a different way, and it should work. And then actually just realized as well that I don't want these guys to participate. So where are you? Okay, so you guys, can I just turn you off? Yep. And you are also gone. I can just kind of turn these guys off. And it's probably easier to do it. Ooh. I just realized I do need a line there though. So I'm going to draw a line again there. But these are going to get turned off. And if I was really organized and smart, I would probably group these together and I would probably put them on their own kind of layer. And I may do that after I've done all this. Since I'm not going to be needing them very much, it takes more time to organize it correctly than it does just to work with it. Now you have a little crumb there, which I'm going to get rid of. Okay, so done a lot of work there. I'm going to save again. Always a good idea. Okay, so I've got my composition. That's looking really like a nice space there. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out though so I don't have to scroll. Okay. And select everything, and let's go back to the paint again. So I'm just going to, let's call it 25%. Paint. Paint. And then the floor, let's call that 90%. So it's just kind of a gray, 75. Yeah. Oh, is it not gonna like me? I might need an edge on everything. Shoot. Excuse me. I'm allergic to tutorials. All right. Let's see here. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm just gonna draw a border on this whole thing. So just draw a square. Make my life easier. All right. Square. Okay. Select everything. Command A. Control A. Go back to live paint again. Third time's a charm. Okay. 75%. Oops. I'll do the floor. Fine. Okay. 75%, and then let's call this 25%. I think I did 74, but close enough. Okay. Contrast. Okay. And then let's call this maybe 50% for what's kind of above. It's not bad though. And I'm actually going to go ahead and leave this kind of the way that it is. So that's my live paint, and I'm going to go ahead and actually put, let's just call this tone. So my live paint group is going to be here, and then everything else is going to get turned on again. Yeah, and of course, at this point, the order is wrong, so I'm going to go ahead and move that above. There you go. Wow. That looks like a drawing. And again, we didn't use perspective, we didn't model it, we just grabbed the horizontals and the verticals that we needed, to make that space. There's a couple of things, like this is not bad, like for the image. The question is, do we want everything to be kind of surrounded in line? And so I'm going to go ahead and kind of experiment with that by, first expanding this group. This kind of tone group here, and then ungrouping it. So then that way I have access to, I'm going to ungroup this, I have access to all the lines in that group. So go ahead and undo that. So I've got the lines versus the kind of tone. And I've also got, access to all the lines in the line, layer, right? So one of the things I want to do, I'm actually going to separate these out into this layer so that the tone is truly separate, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and ungroup. So I have access to all the lines again. And this might get kind of tedious because some of these things are going to be several different lines. Okay, so here I might choose to, because I have the tone, turn the lines off. Ooh. Okay, not so much. Let's take a look at some of this stuff here. So this is kind of the background. And so what I think I want to do is probably drop these down to maybe half that weight, to maybe a 1.5. Drop this column back the same way. So we have a little bit of a depth cue. We have these things that are kind of in the foreground. So I can kind of drop some of this down a little bit. Excuse me. Go ahead here and see what. So maybe it's only like 2 line weights, but this edge is going to win. It's going to be heavy, and this outer edge is going to go because I don't want to frame. Okay, and I'm actually going to lock the tone layer. Well, actually, I'm going to select the tone layer and just make sure that this is, no lines on it at all. I don't accidentally, change anything. So the ceiling has this heavy kind of line. This piece here, let's see here. I'm not sure why I'm not able to select. Okay, it's just the edge of the image. That's fine. Okay, so got a clean edge. I've got the column. I've got these pieces here. Okay, so this is going to be, I'm going to drop this back for consistency. And again, just kind of sorting out like what's kind of foreground and what's kind of heavy versus what's in the what's kind of middle ground. And actually, if I'm thinking about it, I might go ahead and make these a little bit lighter. Yeah, I kind of like that. And I'm actually going to go ahead and make these a little lighter. Because I just feel like they're not as important as the columns. They're not spatial in the same way. Like this dark line at the bottom is the edge of the pit. And this line is the column, and this is the ceiling. And I just feel like it's a strong presence. Okay, let's put the tone back on. Okay, and that's not bad. So I've got this idea, this image here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and save a copy of that. And that's pretty much what I want for my line drawing. And this is 25%. So it's a pretty big image. I'm gonna go ahead and export that as a Photoshop file, and let's just see what the options are. And I think 150 ppi is fine. You can also do it to 100 points per inch. Go ahead and flatten the image for now, and reduce the file size and make it easier to work with. And once you've got that image, we can go ahead and open it up in Photoshop in part 2.